So as you can see, we have most of Tel Aviv on stage right now. We're going to be talking about the city, both its as a culinary wave, you might say, and then also what can be learnt from there as a destination locally. I'm going to ask the panelists to introduce themselves individually, but then if I can also ask you briefly, once you introduce yourself, to explain a little bit about what you think it means when we talk about Tel Aviv, either as a culinary movement or as inspiration. So if we start with Afroditi.
Wow, hard one. Okay, hi everyone. My name is AfroditiKrassa. I'm a restaurant designer, and I've been involved in a project in London called Baya. I'm the interior designer and branding designer of that concept, and I also decided to take equity for the first time ever and put my money where my mouth is, as they say. Effectively, I'm a co-owner of an Israeli Tel Avivian-inspired restaurant in London. The chef is somewhere in the audience. I can't see where he is, anyhow. There he is. So what does it mean to me? To me personally, obviously, I'm not from Tel Aviv. I'm from Greece, which is a bit of an oxymoron sitting with everybody else here talking about Tel Aviv. And, when I joined the Bala journey, I was actually the only non-Jewish, non-Israeli person amongst 8, which were the original 8 founders, and the only female, by the way, everybody else is male. And to me, what was interesting is I first visited Tel Aviv back in '95, just because I had a lot of Israeli friends. Being Greek, we kind of all connected. And I went there thinking, wow, this reminds me of Athens, but with much better food and much better coffee. And it really shocked me how the food was so international in comparison to other countries in the area. The coffee was beyond great. It was probably the best coffee I've had anywhere back in 1995. And people didn't know much about Tel Aviv at the time beyond the region, and obviously beyond Jewish people living in Europe. It wasn't really a touristic destination. And I was really amazed by the nightclub lifestyle, the whole partying, the drinking, the food. It was really an amazing and exciting experience for me. But cut a long story short, when we had to bring an authentic slice of Tel Aviv to London in 2017, when Baya opened, to me it was bringing something which has no stereotypical views or cliches. So if you tell people I'm opening a Tel Avivian restaurant in the UK, there's no stereotype in your head. You have no image of what this could look like. If you say I'm opening an Italian or an Indian or a Chinese, everybody has got a stereotypical view. And I think that the thing with Tel Aviv is you can't define it. It's full of contradictions. It's full of oxymorons. It's full of contrasts. It's local, yet it's international. It's forward-thinking, yet it's rooted. It's irreverent and kind of hedonistic, yet it's business-minded. So there is all this contrast living. It's East and West coming together. And I think, to me, this is the hard thing. You can't define Tel Aviv, and that's the beauty of it, because then you can pick up from so many different inspirations without becoming a cliché and without becoming a pastiche. You're, as a creative, left to draw from all these wonderful mixes of different things. And really, to me, what defines Tel Avivian hospitality, regardless of everything else, is the people. Is the people who make it. And the whole hospitality industry is driven by people, the people who run places, but also the people that come. And that was what we wanted to bring in London, that vibrancy of the people of Tel Aviv, that youthful, sun-kissed energy that you get in Tel Aviv.
Lovely. Uri.
Hi, my name is Uri. I'm born in Tel Aviv. 4 and a bit years ago, I opened together with this guy a restaurant called Santa Katarina.
We're not related, by the way, because just in case you're wondering.
I might look Irish, but I swear I'm born in Tel Aviv. And with a kind of our own personal approach to what you're referring to as Tel Aviv cuisine or Israeli cuisine, or with the whole Mediterranean and the whole regional thing in mind. And it became an instant success, and we've very much enjoy to develop it. And soon we are opening here in Amsterdam as well.
Great. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Agay, and I'm the chef and owner of Santa Katarina, a project that me and Uri did in Tel Aviv 4 years ago. I'm looking at Tel Aviv as something else. For me, Tel Aviv is a landscape for adventure. 10 years ago in Tel Aviv, you can walk in the street and only things that you can eat is a local food that is like old and doesn't have any international angles. So what we did in Santa Katarina is that we took all this food, collect them, and make it like a language. And Tel Aviv was the landscape for this adventure, to make the local food a food that you can serve it in a restaurant. Right now, Santa Katarina became one of the, one of the good restaurants in Israel, and it lets us opportunities to come to Europe and to meet the European audience in their own place. And I'm really excited about it.
Yes, firstly, I think to Santa Catarina, it's not a good restaurant, it's a great restaurant. I'm kind of Israeli, I guess. Both my parents are from Tel Aviv. I run a family business, a restaurant called Neni. We're 4 brothers, and together with our mother, we run this restaurant. Neni stands for the first letter of our names. So it's Nuriel, Elior, Nadiv, Ilan. And in the right order of age, it would be 9, which means no in German. So we decided to not call it that. Yeah, for me, I see Tel Aviv from a different perspective, because me and my brothers, we grew up in Vienna, and we go to Tel Aviv 5 times a year to get a lot of inspiration from there as well. And the way I see Tel Aviv is just a very young, vibrant, urban city. And what's interesting about the Israeli food, my mother is a chef, and she always says it's a chutzpah, and chutzpah means sort of cheekiness, because we can allow ourselves to cook anything, because there's so many cultures which came to Tel Aviv. My mother has Romanian roots, my father has Spanish roots, so this kitchen is a melting pot of all of these cultures, but it doesn't get stuck in time. Tel Aviv is such a fast-moving, fast-paced city that these young cooks are constantly redeveloping how the kitchen can be seen. If it's plating, if it's ingredients, and it's combining these cultures with what you find in the Middle East, which is why I love it. So we also just opened our 10th restaurant in Amsterdam called Neni, and I will pass along to our very, very kind partner from H Hospitality.
My name is Ronald Huiskamp from H Hospitality, a concept and design studio with offices in Amsterdam and in Dubai. And aside from that work that we've done for 15 years, we are very happy co-owners of restaurants, 2 in Amsterdam, and we'll talk a little bit later about the cooperation we have with Neni, I guess.
Great, and I'm Harry McKinley. I'm an F&B consultant, and I think that's all we've got time for. Kidding. So to jump in then, there's a remarkable statistic that says that Tel Aviv is home to 1 bar or restaurant for every 230 residents. That makes it one of the most hospitality-driven cities in the world. So to start with the locals, Uri and Tomer, Santa Catarina's been around from 2015, I believe. Yes. So what is it about that restaurant that has made it so successful and enduring, and how do you create something that is capable of cutting through the noise in a city like that?
I'll let Uri answer.
I'll start. First of all, Harry, and I would like to maybe, because we're talking about Tel Aviv, but we have to take into account Israel as a country, because we buy our cheese from the supplier in the north, and you know, our meat from a little bit the east. So I would take it all into account, but as Ilan was touching on it before, Israel or Tel Aviv, it's a melting pot, and it's a young melting pot. You threw in all these cultures together. It started 70, 90 years ago. They needed, the time to connect. When I was a kid, I come from let's say, a European/Eastern European background. We would only eat our food. And if I had a friend from a more, let's say, Iraqi background or Egyptian background, I would like to go to his house, because I would smell and I would taste completely different things. But today, because time passed by and everything is mixing together, and that's actually the magic, I think, that you call Tel Aviv. It's like this. It has become ripe. it's the right moment. Also, restaurant-wise, we were used to back in the 80s and the 90s to, you know, there was some chef trying to introduce Chinese food or Italian food, but now we have the confidence and the real base and language that has developed through all of this to say, wow, this is our thing, and it's great.
The tourism numbers to the city are the highest on record. I was just looking up, and there are 4 million visitors to Israel as a whole in 2018. That's a 38% increase on 2016. So, first of all, speaking to the local market, do you think those tourism numbers are driving F&B? And then actually speaking to those with more international concepts, do you think the growing familiarity with Tel Aviv and this idea of people wanting to have what they see elsewhere and bring it home is having an impact in some way on the proliferation of these concepts globally?
I'll pick up on that. I think for us, for Baya, that has definitely helped. I speak to a lot of people where I say we've got this Tel Avivian restaurant in South London, and they'll go, oh yeah, I've been to Tel Aviv, it's a great place. Well, I think 10, 15 years ago, there would be very few people who would have said, I've been to Tel Aviv, and I kind of know it, and I kind of understand it. So for us operating in London, it has definitely helped. Of course, there were other people who paved the way, you know, Ottolenghi, Nopi, obviously from Ottolenghi, Palomar, and all these people kind of were maybe before us, spearheading the way of introducing this type of cuisine. Yet they weren't particularly rooted to Tel Aviv. They were a bit more, going back to what you're saying, they were a bit more cross, let's say, Israel, or even cross the whole region of the Levant and the Eastern Mediterranean. And when we were setting up Baya, we were very... we spent a lot of time debating whether we should root ourselves to somewhere specific, like Tel Aviv, which is Aram's roots and very true to who he is and his upbringing and his knowledge, or whether that becomes a bit polemic, in many ways almost like flying the flag of Tel Aviv, and really a lot of people would almost avoid doing that, almost be a bit embarrassed to be too specific about Tel Aviv. And we took internally the decision that, no, this is really what we stand for. Obviously, not myself personally, but the team. That's what they wanted to bring over. And we thought, why not? We should unashamedly talk about Tel Aviv. And now I think with more and more people visiting Tel Aviv, it's not anymore, it doesn't become connected to all the negative politics or other stuff. It becomes related in your head as a destination, as a place where you can go as a tourist, you know? Well, I think 10, 15 years ago, you would hear the word Tel Aviv and automatically associate it to politics, which was, maybe we don't want to talk about it, but maybe it wasn't a positive connotation. It was a negative connotation in many ways. And I think Tel Aviv has moved away more and more because of that expansion of tourism, away from these negative connotations into a more positive place. And that has definitely helped concepts, Tel Avivian concepts across the world, in my opinion.
Actually, before we answer, we have a slideshow which has some pics from the restaurants. So maybe if we could roll that, and then the guys in the audience get to see Baya and Neni, and of course Santa Katarina. Nope. Yes. Here we go.
Ew. Amazing.
I can see it.
And so with Santa Katarina, are you seeing an impact of this kind of influx of people to the city? Do you think that's having an impact on the local F&B market?
Absolutely, Harry. But what is we see it in a different way because we are in Tel Aviv. It's very, in a way, flattering for us that all these people are coming from all these different countries. Also seeing the city as a great, fun place, a very good vacation spot, and enjoying the food like in a kind of primal way, like eating it for the first time. Like touching, you know, like the heart and the soul. So it's amazing to see. And this is also kind of our audience, which spreads it out all over the world.
I have something to say about it. The tourist in Israel, for me, is a mirror, okay, to what I can do with other people that is not Israeli. Because when Israeli people coming to the restaurant, they can take this food and say, okay, my mother cook it like this, and they have the... But when you meet a tourist that don't know, try to imagine like someone that tastes in the first time cumin, or some cumin, or something like this. It's a blowing mind. It's a blow mind. But to look at the tourist as a mirror, for me, is educating me to make the food that can meet him in the middle. There is no place in the world that you can eat in the same menu dish from Tunisia and a dish from south of Italy, and it can be combined homogeneously in the restaurant. So this is the meeting with the tourist, because 10 years ago, the tourist was not coming to Israel, and he was cooking to a local people, and the market was different. And right now, you are developing the restaurant through the tourists that coming and learning new stuff about you, about yourself and your cooking.
And of course, the UK, for example, as a nation, is one of the top 5 in terms of tourist numbers that go to Tel Aviv. I don't know about the Netherlands. So in terms of your concept, are you bringing something that in some way people are familiar with, or do you think you're having to educate people on what exactly this Tel Aviv movement is all about?
Very much, very much. The first question, of course, we had to answer, is it relevant for the market? And we started 4 years ago with the idea. Building took a heck of a long time to develop, so we had to wait a lot of time, Elon. But so even 4 years ago, you said 15 years, but even 4 years ago, it wasn't on the radar so much. Now you can fly with EasyJet to Tel Aviv. You see it. We had a big promotion campaign on the trams here in Amsterdam. It was 4 years ago not the case. So the first thing we asked, is it relevant? Can we convince the Amsterdam market to go there? Amsterdam is adopts easily a new cuisine, new flavors, and they like forward-thinking food. You know, that is that they like the freshness, they like the new things. So that question we answered quite easily for ourselves. But then the second important question is: are we credible? Are we credible as a Dutch outfit to make Israeli food, Tel Aviv food? Of course, we're not. Even though I lived quite a few years in the Middle East, I love the food, but it is completely different to cook it. And the credibility is so important. We have a large restaurant with a deli and a bar and 240 seats. So you need to attract a lot of people. And then we thought, okay, let's be very credible, and let's call Nanny. And I knew Nanny from Berlin and from Vienna. So we had our first conversation, right?
I think it's also interesting. I don't know, can you hear me? Or I think it was interesting the last talk about just franchising and finding the right partners. And I think that was a very good point, because for us, it's also not really a franchise where we say this is the system and open the restaurant. It's 2 years in the process, working very tightly together. Our chef cook actually traveled with his family from Tel Aviv and moved to Amsterdam, which he has the cutest twins, by the way. And it's a lot of working together to make this happen, and finding the right partner who knows Amsterdam locally as well. And it's this combination of working together to make this space a hotspot or something special for the city.
I think that's a good point, actually, because any kind of movement needs to fill a vacuum in a way. So what do you think it is that these Tel Aviv-inspired destinations are catering to that wasn't previously there? What is the gap that they're filling in the F&B market?
Well, I don't know about other concepts, but with Bala, I think we're definitely hitting a market which is about going out and having fun as well as having great food. And this is central to the Baya experience. You know, you go in, I've taken hundreds of people to Baya, and even if they don't love the design or the brand or the food, they definitely all say, wow, this is really vibrant, this is really great fun. Partly it's around getting everybody pissed and putting really awful cheesy music at the end of the night or through his iPad. But, what I think what represents to me Tel Aviv is this kind of hedonistic, kind of irreverent attitude to life. You're here today, gone tomorrow, perhaps, And that, again, going back, there is a history that has created that kind of attitude, which is like, let's go out and have an amazing time, because you don't know what will happen tomorrow. You live in uncertain times. And actually, if you look in parallelisms, I think the Western culture is going through unprecedented difficult times where you don't know what will happen tomorrow. So going back to a lot of the presentations we had today about the younger generations looking going through more difficulty and hardship. I don't know how exactly they went through massive hardship, but that's another point. But, perhaps we're entering these times where you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow politically, especially in the UK, in the US. And people are looking to go out and really let their hair down and have a great time, as well as amazing food, amazing music, amazing culture beyond food. And I think Tel Aviv, in that sense, is very inspiring because it brings together music, it brings together multiculturalism, it brings together amazing architecture, amazing design, art, but also really forward-thinking kind of ideas. It's one of I think it's the biggest gay pride you'll get in Tel Aviv anywhere else in the world. Veganism, really like embracing new movements and forward-thinking. And when you open a Tel Avivian restaurant anywhere in the world and you take all of that, you're not creating a pastiche or something that's fake, but you're really bringing something beyond food, which is authentic to Tel Aviv, but in the Western world is lacking. That whole idea that it's a multicultural and multifaceted experience beyond the food. It's the music, the people, the culture, the art, all coming together. And I truly always say to people that restaurants are places where we all escape, especially nowadays. You can buy food from any supermarket. You can cook your own food. You can get delivery. You're not going out to have food. We're all filled with food. We're not hungry people. You're hungry for something else, which is not the food. It's a cultural element. And restaurants who really tick that box, especially in the UK business, where they feel like a multifaceted cultural experience, they really succeed. If you look at Dishum, they've achieved that, in my opinion. You really feel like you're escaping to another world. And I think Tel Avivian restaurants are well placed to do that, to bring all these other cultural aspects, which are cool and interesting and new and weird and surreal and eccentric, but all fun, and frivolous and kind of hedonistic in many ways.
Because, of course, neither of you are from Amsterdam, so you're bringing a concept here, having chosen this city in which to do it. So what is it that you saw that was lacking here that you think this kind of concept can deliver?
Just first, when we came here, it wasn't about a place. It was about importing the point of view of the Israeli cooking, that it's intuitive, it's less thinking and more doing, and it's like, I don't know, dynamic and change. Like, when we start to develop the language of the Santa Katarina or the food that we're making for here, it was not writing anyway. Nobody know the recipes, so we needed to develop the language. So we connect to the food much stronger because of the working on the recipes and everything, and going to the north of Israel to find the people that making the right cheese for the knafe, and go to the south of Israel to find the Israeli truffles and stuff like this, bringing the food to the restaurant and making a feast, not a dinner.
Yeah, it's like a different approach
Everybody's coming and
to hosting. It's much warmer. It's
Nobody is coming in Israel to eating a proper dinner. This is not the way of thinking of customer right now. They coming for escapism. They want to be somewhere else, not connecting to their
It's
life.
recreational.
So
it's
when you're coming to
leisure.
Santa Catarina and everybody touching each other, and it's not like a regular chairs and seats, and everybody can say hello, and I don't know, the drink is on the floor and everything is like a mess. We call it organized chaos.
Yeah.
Balagan.
We encourage this interaction completely.
So, Ilan then, obviously, and Ronald, what about Nene? Would you say it's a similar kind of vibe?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I can only speak for our concept, and we're a family business. And as you said as well, I think what's so special about going to eat in Tel Aviv is not only the food. It's the entire experience. It's experience dining. It's from not having my own appetizer and my own main and my own dessert, but sharing the food in the middle of the table, which immediately makes you communicate differently with the people that you're having dinner with, or with the group that's next to you. I mean, in our restaurant, 2 couples married and they met in our restaurant in Vienna, which is a true story, which really happened. And all of us also I'm not a chef, for example. I don't cook. My older brother is a photographer and loves fashion. My mom is a cook. So we opened our first restaurant 10 years ago together, and we said, okay, this should not just be about food. This should be all of our passion, art, music, DJs, events, food should all come together in this restaurant. And that is, for me, what the Tel Avivian dining experience should be like.
I wanted to just add one thing about that.
Yeah, sure.
Like for our approach, that okay, we are coming to Amsterdam, and we don't want to impose ourselves. So, like thinking about the project and planning it, one of the most fun parts of a project is choosing the designer. You should know you're the designer. But so
people come usually after they've chosen to us.
But so we chose a local designer, Studio Piet Boon, and Piet Boon is he's very Dutch in the best way possible. So we're forming like this kind of new melting pot.
It's not about educate the Dutch people eating Israeli food. It's about meeting the Dutch people in the middle, with bringing them their own designer and let them feel home.
Yeah, it's about like we said, it's about the warmness, the feeling comfortable.
And I think beyond just the experience as well, there's a certain alignment in terms of food movements. So we've heard on the trends panels, people talking about the rise of veganism and vegetarianism. Of course, Tel Aviv is arguably the vegan capital of the world, with over 400 vegan restaurants. Do you think that's playing any kind of a part in the proliferation of Tel Aviv-inspired restaurants, the fact that Israeli food typically does really amazing things with vegetables?
I don't think Tel Aviv can claim veganism across the world. I mean, they probably would like to, but no. I think veganism is a far bigger element, I think bigger than Tel Aviv or Israel. But obviously, food of that region, and I'll go back, I don't think it's specifically about Israel, but of that region has traditionally been about using vegan, plant-based ingredients. Yes, it's
naturally vegan.
It's natural. I'm Greek myself, and a lot of our dishes, traditional dishes, are fully vegan. We don't call them vegan; they're just traditional dishes. So that plays really well, and I think it's that side of the Mediterranean where, and again, that has helped the growth of Tel Aviv as a cultural destination. By nature, you've got great ingredients growing because of the sun and the soil and what's happening around you. And people were poor in those regions, so they had to find all these, kind of lower end, in terms of cost, ingredients to use, and they would eat meat or fish once in a blue moon. So I think it's a heritage thing, and I think Tel Avivian cuisine plugs in really well with this bigger movement. But I don't know if you guys agree. I think the movement is a bit bigger than Tel Aviv.
Yeah. I think it doesn't try to become part of the trend.
Yeah.
If veganism is a trend, I think it's long term. It's just being very aware of what you're eating. But this is just a natural way that I grew up as well. I grew up with very little meat, not because my mom said meat is unhealthy, just because that's the Israeli kitchen. Melanzani, trina, sesame. These are just main ingredients which taste super yummy.
Yeah.
And
the farmer is really close to the table in Israel, but naturally, not by going to the farmer for hours and trying to collect. The farmer is like 45 minutes from the restaurant.
It's a small place.
And you can go to the desert and to the snow, to the north in 45 minutes. So this is what makes the Israeli kitchen really friendly veggie, because in Santa Katarina, for example, there is no vegetarian dishes. It's a dishes that everybody buy.
Yeah.
And it's like, make kusamachshi, that it's like small zucchini filled with rice and herbs with a tomato sauce. This is vegetarian food. But I don't know, I sell 100 pieces of it every night, so for sure many other people buy it.
So just one last question, because I think we're coming up on time. So looking at the F&B landscape generally.
This stage.
Oh yeah, we'll be like Edo. James will be chasing us off.
We'll do an Edo. We're not going to leave. You guys want us to stay, I'm sure.
So looking at the F&B landscape there generally, it's one of the most interesting incubator destinations, because of course people talk about the startup nation and more startups in Tel Aviv than anywhere else. What do you think restaurateurs or operators can gain from looking to that city for inspiration, either in terms of new models of dining, in terms of concepts, or just in terms of an approach to cuisine?
Right now, in this period of time, in the evolution of the Israeli cuisine, you can only get a point of view, a perspective, because we are still developing the concept of friends and family, street food, and everything is like, really raw. So you need to take it, franchise it, and make it like business, and then to take it out from Israel. But right now, what you can get from Israel is only a perspective. You need to understand that to come to a restaurant in Israel is a happy thing. You're coming to a party. Everybody's drinking and singing, and there is music also, like Afroditi say, and it's a party. It's a little bit a party.
I think that's exactly. I'm not, of course. You guys are much more the expert on Tel Aviv and what goes on there. I've only been there, limited.
Nice
but it's for sure that, and I totally agree with that. It's the vibe that is very interesting to take along, because it is an insane vibe everywhere where you go. At least that's how I experienced it, and I hear from many people. And that is something that we can take over to this part. Absolutely.
And generosity as well.
Yes.
I think when you go to eat in Tel Aviv or in an Israeli restaurant, it's not taking life too seriously, making sure the guests feel at home. We made loads of mistakes in the beginning, but the main thing is when the guest leaves the restaurant, he goes with a smile on his face. And I think many people can learn from that, not to be greedy, but to give, because you will get so much more back.
There is an educated in the restaurant to let the waiter have a relationship with the table.
Yes.
This is what's really important.
Yes.
It's not like someone who give you pizza, okay? She need to let you understand that she know how to build your dinner better than you.
Yes.
And she will take you to a journey inside the restaurant and through the restaurant, through the regions of Israel and to the style of cooking in Israel.
I'm scared to order alone in Israel. I always let the waiter just make the table for me. I'm like, please, your restaurant, do it.
But I'll add one more thing, if I may, that businesses, I think, beyond food in Israel have an attitude where they're serious about what they do. And, people in the food industry are very serious about their food. They produce excellence, yet they're not serious about the approach to how they do that. You don't have to be stiff and square in how you do things just because you're very serious about what you're doing. You can have fun while you're producing something of quality. And I think there's something to be learned for everyone out of that you don't need to approach things in a square way just because you're producing something of excellence. And it applies to all sectors.
Yeah, it goes also back to
you are feeling the DNA of Israel.
Yeah.
Like
I'm
what you're
telling
speaking
you,
about,
I'm
what
a
you're
token Jew.
really, what you're
Right,
speaking about.
we're going to have to wrap
Do you
up.
know?
Good news, though,
Do you know the
because
meaning of
tonight we
Miluim?
will be going to
Do you know
Neni
the
to
meaning of
try
Miluim,
some
to go to
food, so
Miluim?
you'll all get to
Like when you
experience.
are growing men
This is
in
very
Israel,
Israeli, but
you
this
are
is the
going
chaos
to
that people were talking
go
about. So I'd like to say thank you to the panelists. And yes, I hope you'll have a great time tonight then at the restaurant. Thank you so much.